What's up, everyone? Today is August 6th of 2024. In today's video, we're going to take a trip across the pond and take a look at this stabbing spree that happened in Southport, England last week, July 29th, which has led to a string of riots across the United Kingdom. Some anti-immigration riots that appear to be a little bit misguided. But what I want to focus on in this video is how this is another scripted tragedy. In order to see the script, it's important to have a grasp of numerology, a strong component of which is Gematria, the ancient number lettering system that sits underneath the English language. These ciphers on your screen are combined with dates on the calendar, both date numerologies and the duration between dates, to give us riddles that tell us a little bit more about the news than most people truly realize. So we've had these riots over the past week now, and again, this is all in response to a stabbing spree that occurred at a dance studio on July 29th, and this was reportedly committed by the son of two Rwandan immigrants. And the reason this story has caused such backlash is because the victims were children. Now, this is all connected to a couple of other massacres that involved children, one of which we'll be discussing is the Dunblane massacre in nearby Scotland back in March of 1996. And then we'll also look at how this compares to another child massacre in Uvalde, Texas, back in 2022, the video for which, of mine, you can find down in the description of this video. Now, there's other synchronistic elements in this story that we need to discuss as well. One of the victims whose names were released in this Southport stabbing spree happened to be named B.B. King. And if you're a follower of my work, I think you know where this is going. Back in 2015, a legendary blues guitarist, B.B. King, a man with a virtually identical name, passed away. We'll also look at how this connects to the Skull and Bone Society at Yale University. But before we do, I want to talk about why the name B.B. King is featured in this news story from over here in England. When B.B. King passed away in May of 2015, the current King of England was exactly 66 years and 6 months old. King Charles, who took the throne in 2022, born on the 14th day of the month. B.B. King, dead on the 14th of the month. Once again, 66 years and 6 months exactly between that time frame. The perpetrator of the attack in Southport, I'm going to try really hard not to say South Park throughout this video. It's Southport where this happened. But the name of the perp is Axel Rudakubana. And check out his age for the stabbing spree last week, 6,566 days old. Another 666 string here. 666, the gematria of Brotherhood of Death, when you add the 4 base methods together. 187, 299, 97, and 83, 666. In Latin gematria, which I think is the most important method of gematria, the Brotherhood of Death has matching 724 gematria with number of the beast. And remember, this happened in July of 24, or 7/24. If you saw my last video on a beastly downfall, you may recall that 7/24, or July 24th, was the date of Mr. Beast's tweet. Here we're talking about the number of the beast, 666. Intriguingly, there is another number of the beast. Many Christians believe that it's actually 616, not 666. Well, when King Charles was coronated last May, Axel Ruda Cubana was 6,116 days old. So there's a strong 666 riddle with all of this. And even the gematria of the name of the perpetrator points to this as well. Notice how the name Axel Muganwa Ruda Cubana sums to 216 in the alphabetic order. We also get 2106 in the reverse Sumerian method. And this is special because the number 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. The date of the stabbings, when you multiply all of the digits in the date, you even get 2016. Now we need to discuss how this connects to Yale University, home of the Skull and Bones Secret Society, whose numerology has been integral to so much of what's been going on the past couple years. In the year 2023, Yale turned 322 years old. Skull and crossbones equals 223, and the society uses 322 as its emblem. So this is a very important date and continues to be as we dissect the mainstream news. So we talked about how the Brotherhood of Death is synced up with the number 666. Well, when you write out the number 666 in the alphabetic order, notice how you get this value of 294. This is the same as 636, as the number of the beast is written in the King James Bible. Well, if you measure from Yale's special anniversary on October 9th of last year to the date of the stabbings, you get 294 days. The city of Southport, Merseyside, United Kingdom, sums to 2,904 in English Standard Gematria, one of the two primary extended methods in accordance with Latin that I teach on this channel. If you include the end date, this is also a span of 295 days. Why is that interesting? Well, when you write out the number 223 or 322, they both have an ordinal value of 295. This matches the reverse sum of Skull and Bone Society, 295 in reverse. So no question about it, this is all synced up with Yale, Skull and Bones, the Secret Society riddle. Check out how in the reverse alphabetic order, the city of Southport, England, sums to 223. When King Charles was coronated in the year 2023, it was a span of 22 weeks and 3 days before Yale turned 322. Last week's stabbing spree was exactly 22 months and 3 weeks after the death of Queen Elizabeth, which would have been the same date that Charles became the king. In fact, the stabbing was 2 months and 23 days after the anniversary of Charles' coronation. When B.B. King passed away in 2015, Axel Ruda Cubana was 3,202 days old. And when he carried out the stabbings in Southport, check out how old Pope Francis was. Pope Francis was 32,002 days old. And we'll talk a little bit more about Pope Francis and why he's connected in a minute. But also notice how B.B. King would have been in his 1,223rd lunar phase, while the perpetrator, Axel, was in his 223rd lunar phase since birth. Remember, a lunar phase measures the time it takes between new moons. So a little over 29 and a half days is a lunar phase. This also known as a month on the Hebrew calendar or Islamic calendar. So the number 223, obviously very significant to what played out in the United Kingdom just last week. So how does the Pope tie into all of this? Pope Francis, whose real name is Jorge Bergoglio, the first citizen of the Americas to become the Pope, but also the first member of the Society of Jesus to become the Bishop of Rome. Now, back in 2022, I had made a video on the Uvalde school shooting and talked about how it was connected to Pope Francis. And the connection here is very simple. The name of the shooter at Uvalde was named Salvador Rolando Ramos. Was the 18-year-old perpetrator. And what's so crazy about this is that on the date of that shooting, which was on the 22nd of May, or 24th of May in 2022, is that he was a span of 9 days after his 18th birthday, okay? So 9 days after his 18th birthday. Well, now we get this incident where Axel Rudacubana was 9 days before his 18th birthday. So you'll see here, 17 years, 357 days. Well, if you go ahead just 9 days from that, would have been his 18th birthday. So just to recap that, Ramos was 9 days after his 18th birthday, whereas Axel was 9 days before his 18th birthday. So there's a strong connection with their ages here. Well, the name Salvador points us to the Society of Jesus. Notice how the Jesuit emblem reads IHS. And this stands for Jesus, Savior of Man, or Jesus Hominum Salvator. And this S, Salvator, like Savior, matching Salvador, the name of the Uvalde shooter. So let's talk about how this ties into the Southport stabbings. The word killing sums to 155 in standard, and these stabbings were on the date leaving 155 days in the year. Back in 2022, Ramos carried out a shooting at Robb Elementary School. And when you write out Robb Elementary in the alphabetic order, it equals 155. But notice how in reverse, Robb Elementary has that 223, connecting to Southport, England, in the same cipher. The perpetrator of the Southport stabbings was born 2 months and 23 days after Ramos's birthday. Salvador Ramos was 3,223 days old when Francis became the Pope in 2013. The name Ramos has matching Latin gematria with both stabbing and mass stabbing. But where this really comes together is when you write out Southport in the alphabetic order. In ordinal, the city of Southport sums to 152, which happens to match Dunblane Massacre, 152. Well, when B.B. King died back in 2015, Salvador Ramos was exactly 10 years and 52 weeks old. But what about these extended methods of gematria? Both standard and Latin. Notice how Southport sums to 738, For the stabbings in Southport, Salvador Ramos would have been 7,380 days old. In English Standard, Southport equals 1088. When Ramos carried out his massacre, he was 18 years and 8 days old. So his age for all of these events connecting to the Gematria of Southport. Now, earlier we touched on this 666 riddle, which connects the King of England to B.B. King. Well, 666 is revealed as the number of the beast in the 66th book of the Bible, Revelation. Last week's stabbing spree was 606 weeks after the Candy Rook shooting here in the United States. A similar story of children being massacred. This time, the immigrant who was, or the son of the immigrant who was responsible for the stabbings, his family was from Rwanda, which equals 606. And these stabbings were a span of 66 days before the next solar eclipse, an annular eclipse on October 2nd. 66 is also the ordinal gematria of Ramos. And notice how the stabbing spree was 2 years, 66 days, or 26 months and 6 days after the Ramos attack in Uvalde. But not only is this 66 significant, we also want to look at this number 266. Because Pope Francis, he is currently the 266th Bishop of Rome in the history of the Catholic Church. And when you write out the phrase Jesus hominum salvator in Latin, notice how we get gematria of 266 in the reverse alphabetic order. Well, if we instead look at the standard alphabetic order, Jesus hominum salvator sums to 274. This matches the name of the city, Southport, Merseyside, 274 ordinal. And on the date of the stabbing attacks in Merseyside, Salvador Ramos would have been 20 years and 74 days old. If you include the end date, you get 20 years and 75 days old. Robb Elementary sums to 275 with capital letters, but more importantly, 666 equals 275 in ordinal. And we know this is important because in Latin, the name Salvador Ramos sums to 1197, which is the same value as 666, 1197 in Latin. But here's the kicker. If you instead write out 666 in Latin, it sums to 2083. 283, a number connecting to the moon. 283. Salvador Ramos was born 2 years and 83 days before Axel Rudacubana. These two child killers, born 2 years, 83 days apart. And Rudacubana was also born 2,830 weeks after Thomas Hamilton, the man who carried out the Dunblane massacre in nearby Scotland. Check out the number of days before Thomas Hamilton's and Salvador Ramos's birthday. They were born 18,999 days apart. This is crazy because 999 is an upside down 666. And when you add 6 plus 6 plus 6, it's a sum of 18. And here you have the 18 and an upside down 666. For the Uvalde massacre, Thomas Hamilton, let me rephrase that. Measuring from the Dunblane massacre, to the Uvalde massacre was 1,366 weeks and 6 days. And then if you measure from Dunblane to Southport, you get 10,366 days, the same 4 digits, 1366. And remember, 13 is the 6th prime number. So there's a connection there as well. I messed this graphic up, but Thomas Hamilton was 22,222 days old when Francis became the Pope. And the reason this all connects, guys, is because Pope Francis became the Bishop of Rome on the date March 13th. That's the same date as the Dunblane Massacre in 1996, March 13th. So for many years, this Jesuit riddle has been playing out in front of us. Now, before I end this video, I want to talk a little bit more about this 666 and Skull and Bones code. In order to get there, though, I want to take a quick look at one of the names of the victims here. As we see, the 6-year-old, who's listed first on most sources, is B.B. King. The name B.B. King has Latin gematria of 80 and also 44 reverse reduction. These numbers were found in the date numerology of the stabbings. July 29th had primary numerology of 80 and 44. 44 is also the reduction value of Southport. 44, a huge kill number. Kill equals 44. You may recall that someone tried to kill the president last month on another date with 44 numerology. Or former president, I suppose. Well, think about how, this has led to a lot of chaos in the United Kingdom. Politically, there was chaos earlier in the month when a snap election was held, causing the Labour Party to take over in Britain. The new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer was exactly 44 weeks after his birthday when he became the new PM. And with prime numbers, notice how his name equals 440. In ancient Hebrew gematria, the word kill equals 244. This is also the Latin value of 19. Kill summing to 19 in Hebrew reduction. The name of the stabber in Southport, Axel Muganwa Rudakubana, sums to 2044 in Latin gematria, a massive kill number, which stands to reason because kill was found in the date and Southport. And the number 44 is loosely connected to the Skull and Bones Secret Society. Notice how 44 has matching 15, 12, and 99 gematria with Skull and Bones Secret Society. This stabbing spree was in Southport, Merseyside, United Kingdom, which has matching 444 gematria with both stabbing and Rudakubana. 444, the value of skull and crossbones, skull and crossbones 322, and skull and bones 322. All with 444 gematria. Brotherhood of Death also equals 187. I point this out because this stabbing spree happened at a yoga and dance class where Taylor Swift music was being played. And when Taylor Swift came out with her statement talking about the stabbing the following day, she was exactly 1,807 weeks old. And think about how Brotherhood of Death, summing to 187, which is like the homicide code, in California and some other states. B.B. King, by the way, was also in his 1187th month when this crisis occurred. Now, when we talk about the number 666, we're also essentially talking about the number 33. When you write out 33 in Gematria, it sums to 66 and 60. Like 666. But it also equals 156, which is 666 in ordinal. These stabbings were exactly 3 months and 3 weeks after the Great American Eclipse in the United States, and the word eclipse equals 33. It was also exactly 3 weeks and 3 days after Keir Starmer, or Starmer, a weird British name he's got. But he took office on July 5th, 3 weeks and 3 days before the stabbings. His name, Keir Starmer, equals 137 ordinal, which is the 33rd prime number. 137, also the value of both stabbing spree and massacre. In this story, we're told that children between the ages of 6 and 11 were attacked. This class for 6 to 11-year-olds. Well, on July 13th last month, remember the number 611, because that was the time that gunfire broke out at the Trump rally. 611. In Gematria, both assassination equals 611, while attempted assassination equals 116 or 1016. In that same Latin method, Brotherhood of Death equals 611. And check out how old B.B. King, the guitarist, would have been for the stabbings. 36,111 days old. Meanwhile, the new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, was 22,611 days old. The phrase blood sacrifice sums to 611 in Satanic Gematria, the cipher which is built largely around the number 666. But check this out. The stabbing spree was also exactly 9 years and 11 weeks after the death of B.B. King, which is also 110 months and 16 days, which is essentially these same digits flipped upside down. 1116 is also the Latin gematria of Connecticut colony. Yale University was originally founded by the Connecticut colony in the current present-day state of Connecticut. And you may remember Connecticut, the state of the big child massacre in the United States for the Randy Book shooting back in December of 2012. Connecticut colony also equals 211 ordinal, matching ritual human sacrifice and stabbing spree in the English Kabbalah. And it just so happens that July 29th was the 211th day of a leap year. All right, to end this video, I just want to leave you guys with this. This stabbing spree on July 29th was 7 months and 14 days before the big Pi Day eclipse next year. In Latin gematria, the phrase Pi Day eclipse equals 666. And on Pi Day next year, there's a total lunar eclipse. And it's in the year 25. And pi equals 25. This stabbing spree was 7 months and 14 days before that eclipse. Now, this stands out because the word guitarist equals 714. And again, B.B. King, the legendary guitarist, with an identical name to one of the victims in this stabbing spree. The perpetrator of the stabbing spree was born exactly 714 lunar phases after King Charles. And in Latin Gematria, blues guitar equals 714. Blues guitar also equals 135, and B.B. King, the blues guitarist, was born 13,500 days before the new Prime Minister Keir Starmer. 714, by the way, is 119 times 6. So you always get this Sumerian value of 714 in relation to 119. Shout out to Cody, who just jumped in the live stream. And yeah, that's the riddle here, man. It's pretty obvious, I think. Again, the first victim here in the Southport stabbing, B.B. King. I mean, I don't know who's writing this stuff, but it's pretty wild. So yeah, that'll about do it. B.B. King, dead exactly 66 years, 6 months after the current King of England, matching the big Brotherhood of Death number, 666. The perpetrator, 6,566 days old. All of this stuff just comes together way, way too well when you know the code, when you know the manipulation that's been going on. And if you want to check out my blog post, I did a bunch of writing as far as what I think about all of this. You know, it's kind of wild to me that with everything that happened in the United Kingdom, they somehow turn this into villainizing the far right, the quote far right, as they like to call them. But it seems like the phrase far right is just used interchangeably with people who actually give a shit. You know? So you guys can read that if you want. My post is linked down below in the description. But for now, that'll do it for this video. Peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.